Montgomery Mosaic on 1450 WOL, WPRS, HD2, and worldwide on WOLDCnews.com. Montgomery Mosaic features topics of interest to Montgomery County residents, businesses, and visitors. Here now is your host, Deborah Milo.
Good morning and welcome to Montgomery Mosaic. I'm Brian Roberts, in for Deborah Milo this morning. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. I hope you're having a great day so far. I know I am, now that I'm inside and away from all the humidity. We've got a good show for you today as we're talking to the current president of the Montgomery County Council, Hans Riemer, here to talk to us about a busy year for the council. Welcome to Montgomery Mosaic, Hans.
Thanks, Brian. Glad to be here.
All right. Let's just jump right in. The last fiscal year ended on June 30th, and all kinds of things happened this year with the council. Marriott decided to stay in the county. Amazon decided the county was a finalist. Discovery left, but we found a buyer for that building. Metro has been in a constant state of repair. The governor has decided to widen 270 and 495 somehow without taxpayer money. All kinds of things are going on.
We'll see about that, yeah.
All kinds of things are going on. Can you talk about some of the accomplishments the council has made amidst all of this activity in the county?
Sure. It's been a busy year. There's always a lot going on. The council wrapped up its budget. We wrapped up our budget in June. And as in recent years, this has been a really strong budget for education. And we have fully funded our school's budget request, maintaining our class size reduction initiative from a few years ago, and fully funding Montgomery College, and continuing our really strong community priority for education. We've also started to break new ground, or continue breaking ground, around early education and adding funding to the schools to provide pre-K for lower-income kids, and also after-school programming for lower-income kids. A lot of families today in Montgomery County don't have a place for their children to be after school, and as a result, those kids are sometimes at risk or not getting the academic support that they might need. So we've been making a big effort to gradually expand those programs. This was a big year for transportation.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, we fully, a big funding package passed the state legislature for Metro. And so now we have a long-term capital budget, which is the construction side of the budget.
Very important.
Very important. Big deal for us in Montgomery County. You know, it's a lot of service. We were able to successfully lobby the Metro Board to increase the frequency of trains on the Red Line to Shady Grove. And we basically have doubled the number of trains running all the way to Shady Grove during rush hour, which is a big, big step forward. And in our county budget, we have funded some important pedestrian improvements at the White Flint Metro and the Forest Glen Metro. Forest Glen has a pedestrian tunnel that's going to go under Georgia Avenue, one of the busiest intersections in the county, and a lot of residents of the neighborhoods or employees of the hospital have to cross that street, so we're going to be building much safer connection there. And in White Flint, we're going to add a second entrance to the Metro at the White Flint station, which is a big part of our economic development strategy for that part of the county, to have a very Metro-focused transportation program. So lots going on with transportation and education, and in the midst of it all, we didn't raise taxes, and we continue to build our reserves and our long-term fiscal health.
You know, since you mentioned transportation, why don't we stay there for a minute? You talked about improvements to Red Line service, which is fantastic. I never understood the logic of ending the service at Grosvenor and turning the trains around. But I'm a little biased because I live in Gaithersburg. But talk to me about the Purple Line and the fact that construction has finally started on the Purple Line and the impact that's going to have on the county.
Yeah, that's a big one for us. It's a really significant piece of infrastructure. The Purple Line, of course, runs from Bethesda all the way down to New Carrollton. But for the county, it really some of the highlights include a very seamless connection now to the university at College Park. And our ability to pull workers or students from that kind of knowledge-based economy around College Park and just have it be only minutes away from downtown Bethesda or Silver Spring, I think it's just going to be a huge, huge boost for us over time. It's going to give us that kind of university corridor that the county really needs to be that kind of modern, dynamic knowledge economy. And of course, there's a lot of housing that's going to be coming in around all the stations. So in terms of future housing opportunities, living in close proximity to transit where you can hop on the Purple Line and get to a job in Bethesda or Silver Spring or transfer to the Red Line on either side, it's going to be a really, really big improvement. And this is how we can continue to grow the county's economy and how people can continue to move into the county, which they're going to do because of the jobs, without adding more traffic and without adding more pollution.
Okay, fantastic. And we just touched on Governor Hogan's proposal for widening I-270 and I-495. And I know the council has some different ideas about how to do that. Can you talk about what's been proposed, what the council proposes to do?
The council has long been on the record. The council went through a process of adopting a master plan vision for 270 about almost 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And so the council supports a reversible lane and a widening of 270 in kind of a targeted way that would add capacity and add buses that are, HOV, like high occupancy toll lane buses. So the council's been on record supporting expansion of 270 and building that connection all the way to Virginia. And I think we would really like to see that toll lane go, sort of a seamless toll lane from Virginia and up 270. Where it gets sticky is the governor's proposal has a lot more widening of 270 than the council has ever contemplated. And the council does not support a widening of 495. That has really been, it's hard to see how that can be done with impacts on the community that are not too severe and at an expense that is affordable. So I'm personally quite skeptical. It would have a massive impact, I think, on the communities in Silver Spring and Bethesda, Chevy Chase. So we'll see what the governor's plan looks like. We're going to be getting a briefing from the planning department on the governor's proposal in September, and then we'll get another briefing from State Highway and the results of their RFP process and their early designs in December. It's going to be a huge, huge topic for us next year and the next couple years as we try to get our hands around this and hopefully get to some point of, the governor accepting our vision for these highways.
Okay. I didn't mean to leave mass transportation, to bring up bus rapid transit as well. There are at least plans and discussions about BRT on 355, on US 29, excuse me, and also for the Corridor Cities Transitway.
Yeah.
So talk about that. Maybe even a short explanation of what BRT is for folks who
Sure.
don't know.
Well, BRT ranges in what it can be from a bus that is in its own dedicated lane that has onboard fare collection, so there's no line, paying fares as you get on the bus. Off-board fare collection, I mean. It's a very rapid bus that doesn't get stuck in traffic and is really about the fastest way you can get from point A to point B, on the road. That's the ideal version of BRT. You don't see that implemented in a lot of places. Usually it's just not realistic to have that dedicated lane from end to end, and you end up with some places where it mixes into traffic. The Corridor Cities Transitway goes from Shady Grove to Clarksburg, and it was originally planned as a light rail line,
right.
And the county reserved a lot of the right of way. So actually, when that is built, it will be very close to the highest level of BRT. Unfortunately, the state is sort of backing off on funding for the Quarter Cities Transitway, and we'd like to get them back to the table. We'd like to get Governor Hogan committed to funding the Quarter Cities Transitway in his budget. We are moving forward with, faster bus service in the county on Route 29 and on Route 355. And we've already implemented a limited stop service on Route 355 that goes from Lakeshore, from Lake Forest Mall down to Medical Center in Bethesda. And a lot of people, thousands of people are riding that. And we're going to be implementing something similar, limited stop service on Route 29. So we only have so much funds to devote to the projects, and we're trying to do the most we can with the money we have at the time. And so that's kind of why it's a step-by-step project for us, on Route 29 and Route 355.
Okay. Thank you. That makes sense. So let's switch to housing. Affordable housing is an ongoing issue in the county. I've got colleagues who come to work in Rockville from as far away as Hagerstown. And without that knowledge, certainly we can see what's happening in terms of traffic and why I spent so much time talking about mass transportation, because that's a huge part of it. But making housing affordable in the county is an issue. So and I know the council's taken up some improvements to the moderately priced dwelling unit program. And so why don't you talk about that?
Sure. Well, this is a core challenge for the county, is just the expense of living here, the cost of housing, and whether you're a home buyer or you're a renter, it's a very, very expensive place to live. And usually your monthly housing expense is the biggest single expense that you have. It is worse for people who rent than people who own. And as bad as, it can be to buy a new house in the county, what we're seeing is that people who rent are frequently paying up to half of their income now towards their living expense. People at the lower end of the economic ladder. So it's a real problem. And a big part of that problem is just a simple supply and demand equation. A lot of people want to live in the county because there's a prosperous community. There's lots of jobs here. There's great schools. There's a high quality of life, and that brings people to the county seeking the opportunities of being here. But when you got 100 people trying to pick from 50 available dwelling units, what you end up with is the price is going up and up and up. So we need to do a better job bringing online new housing in order to moderate the growth of price increases in housing and keep the community more affordable. That's hard to do. People often object to new housing coming in, whether it's impacts on schools or traffic or, the neighborhood that they live in. It's a very difficult change often for the community to accept. So that's what the council does a lot of times, is focus on how to, set the zoning for the future of an area so that we can have housing opportunities to expand in the future. We did just change some of our laws. We kind of updated and improved some of our laws relating to our moderately priced dwelling unit program, which is a requirement that we have, a very visionary program. The county is one of the first in the country to adopt it, where when a new housing development goes up, a share of the units must be provided to the county for our affordable programs. Historically, that's been 12.5% of the units. So if you have 110 unit building, then 13 units will be provided to the county for our program, and then income qualified applicants, people who are moderately priced, who in an income to afford a moderately priced unit, which is, your sort of starter salary, or maybe even a little better than your starter salary, but your middle class would be able to afford. So we're improving, expanding that law to get more units of housing in the county.
Right. Okay. And there's also a program for accessory residential apartments. It's a term I'd never heard before. And there's also a program for accessory residential apartments. It's a term I'd never heard before. It's time for, I'm sorry about that. It's time for our break. We'll get to get back to that conversation in a minute. And welcome back to Montgomery Mosaic. I'm Brian Roberts, and talking today with Montgomery County Council President Hans Riemer. And we've talked about transportation. We've talked about the budget. We've talked about a number of things. And now I want to continue the chat about affordable housing. So I understand, in addition to the moderately priced dwelling units, the council has also introduced some legislation regarding accessory residential apartments, which is a term I'd never heard before.
Right.
Can you explain what that is and how that helps affordable housing?
Well, the popular name for these is mother-in-law unit flats.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that.
You've heard of that, exactly. What that is when you build over let's say you have a detached garage and you put in an apartment over the garage,
okay, or
you have a basement and you add a kitchen and a bathroom to the basement and a separate entrance, and you've got an apartment inside your house or an apartment in a structure on your property.
Okay.
And this used to be a very common type of housing, and basically the county made it pretty much illegal.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do is open the door back up to creating that type of housing, because it is inherently affordable. There's only so much you can charge for a basement apartment or for an apartment over the garage.
Right.
And so, the rents tend to be reasonable, and the cost of creating the housing, it's not cheap to build in a kitchen and a bathroom into a unit, but it's not the same. You don't have to buy all the land. You don't have to build the roof. So it's a lot more affordable to build. So what we'd like to do, there's a zoning change before the council this fall that will improve the timing, like how long it takes to get one of these units approved. But I think next year we're going to have to take up some provisions around, the basic rules of, like, how large does your lot have to be. Right now, you have to have a minimum 1 acre lot to have a detached unit. Not a lot of people have a 1 acre lot. So there's some basic rules like that I think we're going to have to address. But the bottom line is, you look at communities where you're seeing a lot of houses getting torn down and, $1 million houses going up. What if instead of having $1 million houses going up, we had, a duplex going up, or
right,
a house with an accessory dwelling on it? Then at least the door is still open to the middle class to live in those kinds of neighborhoods. And that's the bigger concern, I think, is you have communities where the middle class is just getting, the bridge is, the ladder's being pulled up. And that's not what we want for this county.
Gotcha. All right. So let's shift to economic development. Always a hot topic. It seems that everywhere I go, there's a crane, and quite a bit of activity going on in the White Flint Park, Pike and Rose area, downtown Bethesda, clearly, and always here in Silver Spring, even in some areas in Up County. There's a new interchange going in between two developments. A new interchange for I-270 going up between two developments on either side of the highway in Gaithersburg. Yep. There's a lot of building going on. But I also understand there's a big plan for White Oak and as well the agricultural reserve. So,
there's no plan to develop the agricultural reserve, but yes.
Well, okay, that's okay. Fair enough. There are plans to build businesses in the agricultural reserve. Is that fair to say?
Well, we are working on some changes that will allow wineries and breweries to open in the agricultural reserve if they are part of a farming operation. But yes, anyway.
Okay. Well, that's okay. But I want to talk. I want to come back to that.
Yeah.
But just so to talk, can you talk about White Oak and what's going on?
Well, there's a lot going on in the county. I mean, the economy is doing well. The unemployment rate in the county is very low, and we're in year, I don't know what now, of the expansion, 7 or 8. So overall, the conditions are good, and I think we're getting the benefit of some very well planned development in places like White Flint. the Pike and Rose community is a lot of fun. There's a lot to do there. Downtown Silver Spring is really buzzing. You go out there pretty much any day of the week, and there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of intentionality in these developments. You've got a lot of community benefits that are being incorporated, whether it's affordable housing or design for parks or support for walkable communities. So we're trying to change how development happens in the county to focus more on sustainability and quality of life. I think we're succeeding in a lot of ways with that. We have some big plans for areas like the part of White Oak that's adjacent to the FDA. And we're hopeful that over time those plans will come to fruition. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the county. I mean, we went through a period where there was not a lot of investment. There was not a lot of private investment in new housing or in the commercial sector. We had a lot of vacancy in the commercial sector. We've got office buildings going up now. You go to downtown Silver Spring, you got United Therapeutics is putting up a spectacular building right on Colesville Road. It's a net zero building. It's going to be a biotech. It's part of their biotech business. You go to Bethesda, there's a brand new biotech building that's going to be going up in downtown Bethesda. We even have a new type of biotech, expansion in the urban centers. So there's a lot happening in the county, up county, down county, east and west, and we're excited about that and trying to make sure that it all goes according to plan, and that we get the good community outcomes from it.
All right, that's good to hear. Would like to have new businesses helping me pay my taxes.
Absolutely. The county, we get most of our county revenue comes from residents through either income taxes or property taxes. And what we would all like, I think, is for more commercial real estate to pay for more of the budget. And so if you want to have new school buildings, you want to have new office buildings to pay for them. That's kind of the way the math works is the businesses pay a lot of real estate taxes, but in our county, they are a relatively smaller share of our revenue. And as we look down the road, I think we want to try to expand that so that our schools can continue to, maintain low class size and high quality.
All right. And let's come back to the wine and microbrewery businesses, whether it's in the agricultural reserve or anywhere else. I understand you are an advocate for these types of businesses, and so just talk about why we should have them. And I'll say full disclosure. My wife and I have spent many weekends sampling different breweries and wineries in the area.
Fantastic. So I'm glad to hear that. Well, I think you probably know why. It's a quality of life issue. It's an economic development issue. It's about attracting younger workers into the county and providing a quality of life for people who are here already. Whether you're looking at the urban context, like downtown Silver Spring, downtown Silver Spring's revitalization is really a part of the success there has been Denizens Brewery. We've got 2 more breweries coming in, one on Georgia Avenue called Astrolab, and we've got another one taking the whole ground level floor of an office building right by the Metro. We're going to have 3 breweries in downtown Silver Spring. When you think about how are we going to attract businesses to come to the Discovery Building and fill that building back up, a lot of that is what's the quality of life for the workforce in that area? Are younger workers going to want to spend time in where that office building is?
Yep.
And when you have a vibrant brewery scene, it's an indication these days of a high quality of life in an urban setting, and I think it's going to really help us with our economic development goal of bringing companies into Silver Spring to fill up that Discovery Building. Yep. But then go out to the Ag Reserve, go to Brookville Beer Farm or Rocklands Winery or Merodaka Brewery. You have some fantastic businesses out there. I tell you, one of the best weekend days you can have in Montgomery County. Head out to one of these destinations, spend a couple hours with friends and family. Maybe go out to Butler's Orchard if you got kids, or go pick your own, berries. But spend the afternoon at a winery or a brewery. I was visiting a farm yesterday near the Clarksburg area, a couple hundred acres. Really world-class wineries are purchasing land in the county. Old Westminster, Black Ankle. We've got some great land in the county for winemaking, and we're going to see this really growing in the future.
Oh, that's good to hear. Where my wife and I need to add a few more locations to our list.
Well, we've got to change some rules. That's the only thing. We've got a zoning change at the council this fall, and if we can open the door to the wineries, I think they're really going to thrive here. But we've got to make some changes, in how we think about the ag reserve and recognize that wineries and breweries are part of farming, and they always have been.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck. I'm gonna. We're running out of time, amazingly. It's amazing how quick a half an hour will go. But before you go, I understand you and the county executive's wife, Catherine Leggett, wrote a letter to the county council asking the Board of Education to consider naming a new high school after Josiah Henson.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Well, Josiah Henson was an abolitionist, and he lived in Montgomery County, was raised in Montgomery County, or grew up in Montgomery County, I should say, and he escaped to freedom from Montgomery County.
Okay.
He was enslaved here on a farm near Old Georgetown Road, right across the street from where Tilden Middle School is today. And that school was going to reopen as a high school once again, and we think that the high school should be named for Josiah Henson, one of the most consequential figures to live in the county, and an incredible person.
Oh, fantastic. Good luck. I hope that works out.
Thank you, Brian.
Enjoyed this conversation. I hope you all have enjoyed it as well. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for sharing your time with us, Hans.
Thank you, Brian.
And thanks for listening. Thank you to all of you for listening. Remember to tune in again next month for another edition of Montgomery Mosaic on 1450 WOL and worldwide on WOLDCnews.com. This is WOL, where information is power.
You've been listening to Montgomery Mosaic, featuring topics of interest to Montgomery County residents, businesses, and visitors. For more information or a copy of the show, email public information at montgomerymd.gov or call 240-777-6507. Be sure to tune in at this time on the second Wednesday every month for Montgomery Mosaic on 1450 WOL, WPRS, HD2, and worldwide on WOLDCnews.com.